Wow. So, I mean, we could go on for hours on NVIDIA, but I have heard that there are other companies that exist in the technology world that some of us have to care about. And I'm curious, what else got your attention?
Well, so I don't want to spend too much time, but it is another company that I'm a huge fan of. I think they also execute very well, and that is Adobe. And so Adobe did make a couple announcements, shockingly, about agentic AI.
Mhm.
Adobe is a very interesting company in that they play in a couple of very diverse sort of market segments. So, and they made announcements on both. So they made announcements on their, I forget what they call the creative cloud side, right? The
Mhm.
for all of that. So they introduced a set of APIs to their AI components to be able to drive that. And then they also on their Adobe Experience Platform side, which is competing more with like on the Salesforce angle of it, a bunch of orchestration agent and a bunch of stuff. And I mean, you can go into more detail on either of these if you're interested. To me, here's the big takeaway, and we're going to talk more about this in a minute. Is I see the market, the entire agentic AI space, sort of diverging. And I see on the one side, we have the Salesforces and the ServiceNows and the folks that are building these builder platforms. And I'm fairly, maybe bearish is too strong, skeptical, right? I look at the amount of bandwidth, the amount of expertise, just the amount of raw resources that the enterprise has today, and say, do they really have the ability to build, to use these builder platforms for anything except for the most important use cases? And so I think that's one side. And then you have the other side, which is what I'll call purpose-built agentic solutions. And this is a classic case that we didn't really talk about in detail, but Deloitte's Zora AI solutions fall into the same category. A whole bunch of folks, right, are doing this where it's like they're taking the thing that they're already known for, they're already good at,
Mhm.
and then they're using this technology to build a bunch of agents that are purpose built for these specific elements. And I think that's a winning combo. And I think that's what Adobe is doing. They listed a whole bunch of announcements around, or a whole bunch of different agents doing different pieces of it. And I think they're being very smart about it. So that was the big takeaway on that front.
Yeah, I find Adobe in an interesting situation here for AI in that they were actually early to market on this. When you look back, whatever it was, 7 or 8 years ago now, or maybe longer, on Jordan Peele imitating Obama and being able to do that lip sync live on stage with that level of imitation. But Adobe has been unable to fully make the case for why they should be the trusted generative AI vendor for creating new assets and then bringing that into the customer journey. And I feel like Adobe has made this a little more complicated than the market wants it to be. Now, this isn't an easy challenge of creating generative AI capabilities or supporting that from an API perspective, and then bringing that into the customer journey and then supporting account management associated with all these assets. It's definitely a difficult thing to do, but it's been a difficult challenge for Adobe to figure out exactly how to unlock all of this, other than through functional changes to the platform. So I think this is possibly a good sign that Adobe is looking at agents, especially on the account orchestration and contact journey perspective. Hopefully, those agents will be able to simplify some of that process and finally be able to unlock the innate advantages that Adobe has. Just from a market perspective, I think it would be good for somebody to show how generative AI fits into more complex business workflows and use cases.
Well, and I do think it's a little bit more focusing on that side of it for them. I think is a more of a winning combination. They're just more process centric. It's just easier. I think the where you're talking about is they had a lot of promise on the creative side, but the creative
Mhm.
side is a bit of a hornet's nest, and it's really difficult to do it and to do it at scale and to connect all the dots. So I think that's where there's a sort of break point. But I do think it's interesting, and what it really shows. I mean, if we just following these conversations every week, right? This is still so early, and the winners and losers change every single week, and so it can nothing is for certain with any of it. But